A few weeks ago, we told you about new regulations the Environmental Protection Agency is proposing. The agency wants to cut carbon emissions nationally 30% by 2030. In Indiana, that would mean a 20% drop in emissions within the next 15 years. That goal could have significant implications. The EPA says it will mean better air quality and therefore fewer health problems. But as Gretchen Frazee reports, some worry it could devastate local communities built around the mining industry.
Southwestern Indiana is dotted with small towns where front yards are decorated with American flags and yard signs that read "Proud Union Home" and "Count on Coal." Nearly everyone here is associated with the coal mining industry, or at least knows someone who is.
What we're looking at is a rail loading facility where they bring 120 empty rail cars with 3 engines, and we load approximately 116 tons of coal on each rail car.
John Stacura is the vice president of Solar Sources Underground. His company is a middleman in the coal industry. Each day, its 4 employees load coal from the mines into train cars, where it's then shipped off to nearby power plants. Every year, they load more than 2 million tons of coal. But that's less than half the amount they could be shipping.
Solar Sources has infrastructure and permits in place that we could mine between 5 and 5.2 million tons of coal a year if the contracts were there.
Solar Sources Underground also has a permit to mine the land just west of this facility, but the land is sitting untouched. Stacura says they aren't mining for the same reason they aren't shipping out more coal. There isn't enough demand. And Stacura blames that on one thing, the EPA.
It's not just us, it's becoming a regulation nation. You know, at one point in time, coal mining was fun. It's not so much fun anymore.
Stacura says forcing power plants to reduce the amount of coal they burn has a domino effect.
They get cut back, we get cut back. I've got 350 outside trucks that come in here per day, outside contractors. So that's outside jobs. We get affected, they'll be affected.
Gary Gentry is the Knox County Development Corporation president. He says there are 9 counties in southwest Indiana with coal deposits that have been mined.
In this county, mining is the second highest paying job category that we have, second only to utilities, which of course the coal supplies most of the power source for those utility companies, so it's integral to our economy.
Gentry says he understands there could be benefits to the climate and to air quality if EPA regulations go into effect, but he worries about the impact on utility costs and jobs. That impact, economist Timothy Slaper says, is impossible to know.
That's the $64,000 question, or maybe $64 billion question, because I don't think anybody really knows.
But Slaper says the EPA regulations aren't the only thing to blame. Free market factors such as the cost of natural gas also play a major role. Natural gas prices have plummeted in recent years as fracking is opening up a large supply of natural gas. In the meantime, coal prices have increased. That means more power plants, including several in Indiana, are switching to natural gas.
If that is a huge trend, and we have fertilizer plants that are using it as a feedstock, and if we are planning on exporting it to Japan in ships, you know, suddenly it's not going to be $4 a 1,000 cubic feet for gas. It's going to be, you know, closer to 6, closer to 7, closer to that break-even point where, well, maybe gas isn't that much less expensive, all things considered, than coal.
In the meantime, power plants are still being forced to cut their emissions. And in the short term, the easiest way to do that is to burn less coal. While some companies like Solar Sources Underground are looking at shipping more coal overseas to make up that difference, the drop in demand could still have an impact on a large range of workers, from those working in the power plants to the miners who are on, or in some cases, in the ground, every day digging up coal.
At our particular mine.
But retired mining engineer A.J. Mason says the coal industry has been here before.
This one actually was used to clean the coal at Blackfoot Mine. That was up by Coal, where the little town you came through.
Today,
This
Mason
lipstick
runs
right
the
here
Museum of the Coal
actually
Industry
built
in
the
Linville.
shaft.
But 45 years ago, in 1969, he was just entering the mining industry as a mechanic for the Enos Old Bend Coal Company. 1 year later, the EPA was created, and soon after that, the federal government started enforcing new environmental standards.
And I kept hearing, companies keep saying, we got to mine the coal cheaper. We got to mine the coal cheaper. And then, there was for a while that we had a lot more days off than we had. Then it picked up again.
One of the biggest challenges came in the late 1970s, when Congress labeled sulfur dioxide as a pollutant and forced power plants to find a way to remove the sulfur from coal or face closure.
And the environmentalists said that we had to clean up the coal stacks and clean up the pollution in the air, and that was a big expense that most of the coal-fired power plants has done. They've done that. They put the scrubbers on the power plants and made the coal feasible to burn. We moved right along, and hopefully we will again.
The EPA proposal is in the middle of a public comment period. It's unlikely the agency will completely abandon the regulations, but it could tweak them based on the feedback it receives. Several states' leaders, including Indiana Governor Mike Pence, have also vowed to challenge the mandate in court. To talk more about the implications of the EPA regulations, we are joined by Kerwin Olson. He is the executive director of the Citizens Action Coalition, a nonprofit organization that advocates for energy policy reform in Indiana. Thanks for being here. I do want to start, though, by saying representatives from energy companies were not able to make it on this program, but the Indiana Statewide Association of Rural Electric Cooperatives did provide us a statement regarding their stance on this issue. They say the electric cooperatives are urging the EPA to work with us on these regulations to limit the impact on your electric bill and Indiana's economy while finding a common sense solution to leave our children a cleaner planet. The strict proposed regulations threaten to increase electric bills dramatically and risk thousands of jobs. We need to find the right balance between affordability, reliability, and a clean world. And Kerwin, we hear this a lot. They're not opposed to clean air, but they're trying to find that balance. Is there a balance?
Absolutely, there's a balance, and we believe the Obama administration has struck that balance in this proposed regulation. It's very modest from our perspective, if not a little bit too weak. The proposal provides a varied menu of options that electric providers can choose from to comply with these regulations, as well as a 15-year time frame almost in order to reduce our emissions just a mere 20%, which many, like myself, believe is not enough.
Well, and you speak of the 15 years. Some say that that time is not enough. Do you think that if the time was longer, that maybe some of these power companies could come up with more of a new technology to help with those regulations rather than just burning less coal?
Not at all. The technology exists today. There are off-the-shelf, affordable energy efficiency measures that can be implemented today at a very low cost. Wind power is now competitive with both coal and natural gas, and solar is quickly approaching competitive levels with those technologies as well. So we believe the technology is readily available today, and the time frame should even be shortened.
Now, as we heard in the story, more coal may be shipped overseas if the EPA regulations do go into effect. Doesn't that kind of negate what the EPA is trying to do? And in other words, they're just kind of moving the coal to another, even though it's global, rather than reducing coal usage?
Without question. I mean, there has to be some responsibility on part of the rest of the world to address carbon emissions as well. But we need to lead by example, and we need to take the leadership role that the United States can play in this, and show the world that reductions can occur at a low cost to the public.
We have just about 30 seconds, but one more question about utility cost. We heard that these costs are not just for residents, but for businesses as well. Indiana touts energy come to Indiana. Are there other things that the state can do to try to help reduce energy?
Well, the reality is that energy costs in Indiana have increased dramatically over the last 10 years, and most of those increases are due to our over-reliance on coal. So we believe these regulations and shifting away from coal and diversifying our portfolio will actually reduce the cost of utility bills in our state and make our state more competitive and attractive.
All right, thank you very much for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me.